I immediately broke down in tears and I just said, like, I can't do this. Like, I have to pursue
Hmm.
music. I don't know what I'm gonna do, like how I'm gonna pursue it. I don't know how I'm gonna make ends meet. I don't know what my next steps are, but like I have to pursue music.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Headliner Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is an artist who has been taking the house music scene by storm. She launched her project less than a year ago and has already played EDC, Beyond Wonderland, and some of the biggest nightclubs in Southern California. A true embodiment of the headliner mindset and someone who knows how to have a ton of fun in the process. This is Fredy Lane.
Hi.
Welcome to the
Thanks
show.
for that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Good to have you. This is really exciting. This is rad because we have really been able to become like such better friends over this last year. We knew each other because you were a student at Icon when I taught there, but the universe brought our lives and our paths back together in a really cool way, and it's just been rad to see what has unfolded for both of us over this last year.
Definitely. I think it's been cool to kind of like grow alongside each other on our journeys in different ways
Yeah.
and kind of both like start speaking our truths and living our truth.
Yeah, big time. I always refer to you as my life coach. You've helped me
I love
you've
that.
helped me so much, and that's where I want to start off, is where we were at when we both reconnected. We had both gone through breakups. Like we were both like on our healing journey where we were like a little
Oh,
lost, like
yeah.
finding ourselves still. And one of the best things that you have ever said to me, which I share all the time, and it really, yeah, it just really hit me like a ton of bricks because I had gone through a breakup and I decided to leave California. I moved to Texas, I moved to Austin, and I was just having a ton of fun my first couple of months here. And then we were having a phone call, and you're like, "Look, Nick, you can break up with your girlfriend, you can move to another state, you can even get a new job, but you can't run away from yourself." And that just bitch slapped me so hard because I was just ignoring. I was like, I'd gone through this breakup and I was like, I'm just going to move and completely ignore it and not actually process any of my grief or any of the healing that I needed to do. And like, you helped me out so much with that because then I actually got to start doing the healing work that I needed to and that everybody needs to when you go through a breakup. You can't just like fucking run away from it. So,
I mean, I think that it's been a really cool journey watching you from that point. I definitely, after saying that to you, saw a really big transition in you, and it was really, really cool to watch. I also want to say that the only reason why I could have ever given that advice was because I had gone through it myself so many times and had kind of jumped from relationship to relationship without doing my inner work or my healing for a very long time. And I think it was this last breakup that really propelled me into kind of getting to know myself for the first time and really starting to understand like what makes me tick and who I am as a human. So it's been really cool to watch you also go through that
yeah.
and to dive deep just like I did and am. It's a journey that never ends. So
That's a real big part of why I want to have this podcast is because yes, this is speaking to artists how to be successful in your career, how to live your dreams of, getting booked and playing shows and all of that. And we can't ignore our mental health, our emotional health, like who is the human that's underneath all of it, because that human needs to be healthy. And we do see it all the time where it's like you can have all of the success and you can achieve your goals, but also there's a lot of people that are still very broken and very hurt and very unhappy. And so I love that really is where we reconnected. Was like it wasn't even about music, it wasn't about business, it wasn't about building brands, it was about just being better people and healing ourselves.
well, I think that people forget too that being human is honestly what connects us most to our audience. A lot of artists start creating out of pain, or at least that's how I started creating. growing up, I would sing and that was my outlet. That's how I coped with the things that I went through and the childhood that I had. I would sing. And when people would listen to me sing, they're like,
Mm,
"What? You put everything, like every emotion into everything you sing." And it's because I had a lot of pain there. And then when I started like really getting back into music, like I finally wanted to create something that just felt fun and like felt like my inner child coming out and it felt like play and it didn't have to feel heavy and didn't have to feel emotional, and that's how I ended up starting to produce tech house because it was like, that just made me wanna dance. It was, like, the first time that I felt music in a playful way and that it felt like, I don't know, it just, like, moved through my body differently instead of feeling like, "Wow, I'm just gonna, like, channel all this hurt and all this pain into this vocal."
yeah.
It was such a different experience, and I think the more that we lean into who we are, whether it's the pain that we're putting into our music or like with my project, starting to let my inner child like finally live and
Yeah.
be. That's those are the things that I think really help people to connect with you because it shows like, oh, this artist is human too, like we're not just putting on a filter and putting out edited views of ourselves to the world. Like it's actually who we are, and I think that that's when people really connect with it the most.
Fredy Lane is so fun. The whole brand, the whole project, like you literally have, you're putting out a song called Ass soon. That is just a
It's
is that
today,
today?
today, it came
Oh,
out
yes, all
today.
right. Wait, yeah,
Yeah,
everyone go listen to Ass. It's so good. Shaking your booty. It is like the booty shaking anthem of the year. It's so fun.
yeah.
And I love that you also are still bringing in this element of the other real side of life too, right? It's like life is the duality of like, yes, we do have fun and we are still human and we have other parts of ourselves. And I love that, especially in our scene, the dance music scene. It's about having fun. It's about partying. Like, you're taking shots of tequila and like out there DJing and having fun, but you're also really advocating the importance of also taking care of yourself, of self-care and mental health and finding that balance of like, yeah, we get to have fun, but we also do need to be responsible and take care of ourselves. And I love that you're really speaking into that, especially in our scene, because I think it's an important message that could be shared and promoted a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that's super important to me personally, just having been somebody that has had a past struggling with substance abuse. I definitely feel like a large part of my life, I was partying to cope and was partying to kind of escape like the feelings that I'd felt battling with depression and battling with anxiety. And I think that that's something that is super common, not just in artists, but in everyone nowadays, especially post pandemic. Like, we're all struggling, and partying is a great way to cope. I would, not great in a
Yeah.
healthy sense, but it's
An
an easy
easy
way to
way,
cope.
yeah.
And for a really, really long time, like, that is how I coped. And I felt that drinking or doing drugs or partying was how I would kind of escape that day to day of feeling that depression or feeling that anxiety. And it really took many years of doing my work and going through therapy to get to a point where, like, when I party now, like, I'm partying for
Yeah.
fun and not because I'm actually trying to like escape any type of pain or feelings. And I think that's a really, really beautiful place to be in because partying doesn't have to be self
Yeah.
destructive.
Partying's great. Go have fun. Go take some shots, but are you doing it because you're celebrating life or are you doing it because you're running away from life? And if you are doing it to run away
Exactly.
from life, then that's a great time to start getting real and start looking at what's actually going on underneath the hood. And let's pay attention to that. Let's work on that. Let's work through that, which, that's been a lot of our journey over this past, year or two. What are some of the things that you did to kind of get out of that space of partying just to run away from your problems and making the shift?
I think that honestly, the big thing that kind of started propelling me in that direction was during COVID. I actually got really sick when I got COVID for the first time. And I had about 10 months where I was experiencing like what they would call long COVID. And during that time, I was having very serious symptoms that did not allow me to drink or
Mm.
party. And at the time, I was dating another artist who was just kind of coming up in the scene, and he was playing lots of festivals. So we were going to festivals, we were going to parties. It was honestly like the first really big stint of like his career. And so during that time, like I was kind of forced to be in the club or be at festivals. Is kind of right when COVID was starting to like open back up again. And I learned how to socialize and how to be out and around other people without being fucked up.
Yeah. Great,
And
great
it was
skill
a
to
weird
have. Yeah.
experience. Yeah, it was a weird experience at first. I was like, "Oh, wow, like, this is kinda weird," and sometimes it would suck, and sometimes it would feel really awkward, and then it kinda got to the point where I was like, "Wow, I actually, like, really love this because I'm experiencing music and I'm experiencing other people with, like without forgetting."
Yeah.
Like, I would go the whole night, I'd be like, "Wow, I remember everything that happened
Yeah.
last night, like, this is
Yeah.
dope." And, like, I'd wake up the next morning and not feel like shit, and it was a really cool experience that kind of started things. It wasn't the only thing I feel like that got me to where I am now with my relationship with specifically alcohol, but I also kind of started doing the work. It was like around that time that we kind of started talking again, that I went through my breakup. And when I went through my breakup, I think that was probably one of the lowest points that I had been in a while with my depression. And my partner had kind of helped me to realize like if I didn't start focusing on myself and my healing and my journey, that I was just going to keep drowning in this
Yeah.
depression. And so I immediately we broke up. He's still literally my best friend now, but so all amazing things to say about him and that. But I immediately got into therapy. Shout out to my therapist who has literally changed my life. But we started kind of digging down deep because at that point, like I was working my corporate-ish job. I am a partner at an event production agency that I started with my uncle. And that was probably the point where I was the most successful, I would say, in my life. I was making a lot of money. And I kind of always felt like, oh, like when I'm making X amount of money and doing this and that, like I'll be happy then. Like that was kind of always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I'll be happy when like we have this big office and we have these employees and like things are going well. And I'm like sitting in my C suite and like I'm running the company and stuff. Like I thought that those were the things that were going to make me happy. And when I started like peeling everything back and sitting with my therapist, being like, okay, I logically can look at all this and be like, okay, I'm beautiful, I'm successful, like I drive a Tesla, like I have all these material things that I like, and I have a nice apartment. And, like, I was like starting to look at all these things and I was like, wow, like if this isn't going to make me happy, like what
Yeah.
is? And so we just started like kind of peeling back the layers and like getting to the bottom of it. And I would say after about 6 months of being like, okay, like I'm going to wake up every single day and I'm going to ask myself, like, what would your perfect life look like? And at this point, I was very well off financially. So I will say that like I was in a position to be able to like move into the apartment I wanted to live in or like do the things that I wanted to do. And not everyone has that luxury. I think that you still can do the work without having that luxury. But I basically started every single day listening to myself, listening to my body, really trying to like mute what other people had to say about what I was
Mm.
doing because I wanted to like finally for once listen to myself and just do things that would truly make me happy. I stopped doing things out of obligation. I stopped going out to parties that I didn't want to truly go to. I just started doing everything that I felt like, okay, like what would make me happiest
Yeah.
today? And about probably 6 months into this or something, I was sitting at my desk one day and I was just like, wow, like I am not going to be happy doing this for the rest of my life. Like sitting at this desk in this big fancy office, I've got like the biggest office in there and I've got all these employees and stuff and I'm sitting behind my computer and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
Like, this is not what I
Mhm.
want. Like, this is not gonna make me happy. And I jumped into a session with my therapist, and I told her, I was like, I have to quit. Like, I have to leave my job." And she was like, "Are you sure? Like, maybe you should think on this." And I'm one of those people where, like, I am an overthinker, and if I think something, like, impulsive like this, but then I let myself think about it for too long, I'll talk myself out of it. And so I was like, "I'm doing it today." And so I got in my car after work and I drove down to my uncle's house, and it was probably the hardest conversation I've ever had in my entire life because, mind you, I had just spent the last 10 years of my life working 80 to 100-hour work weeks to build up to this point in my career and to be able to take over this company and build a legacy for my family. And I kind of beat around the bush for about an hour or so. And then finally he's like, "All right, why are you here?" And I immediately broke down in tears and I just said, like, "I can't do this. Like, I have to pursue
Mhm.
music. I don't know what I'm gonna do, like how I'm gonna pursue it. I don't know how I'm gonna make ends meet. I don't know what my next steps are, but like I have to pursue music." And it was May 5th of last year, and it's so crazy to think how drastically my life has changed, and my uncle is not like a very affectionate person, I would say, and for the first time, he came over to me and kissed me on the forehead, and he said, "I'm so proud to see you finally choosing you." And it's been incredible the support that I've gotten from him since. Like, I've been able to go down to part-time, and he's so amazing with, like, my schedule and me prioritizing music, but, like, I honestly wouldn't be where I am without him, and I'm really
Yeah.
grateful. But just to see, like, how much my life has changed, I mean, I immediately from like, that was May 5th, immediately, like, went to EDC and had kinda, like, started putting out feelers and, like, I started taking production lessons again, like, I started doing the work and started thinking through, like, what I wanted to do as far as, like, my brand and my name and all of those things that I had been, like, kinda thinking in the back of my mind since Icon, but really hadn't, like, taken the full leap, and started walking around EDC, and people are like, "Oh, are you" like, people knew that I was, like, starting to work on music, and they're like, "Oh, are you playing this year?" And I was like, "No, but I'm gonna play
Yes,
next
you
year."
are.
And I just started, like, planting that seed. I was like, "No, but I'll play next
Yeah.
year." And, it wasn't until, like, over the summer that I started working with Cole, which I think was, like, the real big, like that was me deciding, like, "Okay, I'm really investing in this. Like, I'm gonna drop some money and I'm gonna, there's no plan B at this
Yeah.
point."
You said so many amazing things. It's such an incredible story because I can only imagine how many people are sitting there working at their job and probably comfortable, right? Doing well, they're paying their bills, and there's something inside of them that just knows that there's something off, that there's something more, that there is a calling, whether that's making music or whether that's, something completely different. But I truly believe that every one of us has a calling. And there's so much external noise of parents and society and school and all of these voices that are telling us sort of what we should do and where we should go. And then there's this other voice, which is our own internal voice, our authentic voice, our spiritual voice. I don't know what it is, but I truly believe that every single human that arrives on this planet has some sort of purpose, some sort of calling. And being able to listen to it, being able to hear it. Like I want to go back a little bit because you talked about really learning how to listen to yourself. You even said listen to your body, right? And it sounded like that was a process. How do you actually do that? Because I think when some people hear like, "Oh, I'm listening to my body," a lot of people are probably like, what does that even mean?"
What does that
Right? Like, so
mean?
how did you get back in touch? Because there were a lot of other voices that were surrounding you, a lot of other narratives and beliefs, but you got back in touch with this part of yourself. Tell me a little bit more about what that process actually was like for you. How do you listen to your body?
Yeah, I think that, the best way that I could probably explain it in easy terms would be like, say you're just, like, feeling run down and, like, you're supposed to go out to a party and, like, everyone's telling you to go, but you're like, "Ugh, I'm tired and, like, I just don't really feel like it, and I know if I'd go, like, I'm gonna be feeling off and not in the best mood, and I'm probably gonna, like, drink to, like, feel better, and then it's like, I'm still gonna feel like shit." That's probably, like, the best surface level way I could say how I would explain listening to your body, but for me, it went so much deeper because, like I said, I'm somebody that battles with depression. I'm not somebody that I didn't wake up every single day feeling suicidal. In my stint of really, really battling with depression, I had, I would say, one experience where I actually attempted suicide. And that was probably, I would say, about like 7 years ago.
Mhm.
My everyday struggles of dealing with depression is more of like lack of motivation, like feeling kind of more like numb and just like not really wanting to get out of bed in the morning, which a lot of people probably wouldn't even realize it's
Yeah.
depression. And I think that, like, it got to the point where it was gnawing at me so much where I'm like, "God, like, everything looks like I should be happy. Like, why is it not clicking?" Like, I could look in the mirror and I could say, like, "I am pretty," and I could tell you I know that I'm pretty, but I didn't feel pretty. And for so long was doing the things I thought would make me love myself, but I didn't love
Mhm.
myself. And going through this journey of really, like, digging deep and listening to, like, who I am and, like, what I want, like, started to make me learn, like, who I am. And the more I started learning who I am and, like, just authentically being myself, the more I started loving myself. And the more I started, like, kind of waking up with purpose. And I think that a huge realization that I've had is that my depression was so reliant on the fact that, like, I never spent the time getting to know myself, and I would get into, like, relationship after relationship, and I would kinda just mold into, like, what that guy or what I thought that guy wanted. And I think I kind of modeled a lot of my life like that because I went into a career that I thought my family would want me to go
Yeah.
into and what they thought looked like success. And don't get me wrong, like, I am so grateful and lucky to, like, have had the support that I have from my family, like, when I decided to go into music, they're all like, "Fuck yeah, do it." Like, "Finally, finally." So, it's not even like they were just like, "Oh, no, don't do music, like, don't go after music." Like, it was more of, like, society and everybody being like, "Yeah, it's fucking hard to make it in the music industry," and I just thought like, "Okay, I can take this easy path." Not that it was easy, but, like, I can take this path of basically knowing I will be successful, or I can just, like, walk this other way down this, like, dark ass alley and have no fucking idea when the light's gonna turn on, but, like, which way do I go? And I was young and I didn't really have the confidence that I have now to believe in myself. So I just went the easy route, you know? And after all this time, I realized that it wasn't really easy because I never really knew myself because I was just doing what everyone else in society and everything like made me think that I should do.
What I'm hearing and seeing is that ultimately when you don't listen to that deeper part of yourself and we do the things that we think we're supposed to be doing or that society tells us to do, then there's still something inside of you that wants to come out. And if you don't acknowledge it and trust it and honor it and give it the space, then it's going to gnaw at you and it's going to hurt. It's going to cause pain. It's going to cause emotional pain, depression. It's going to cause psychological pain, frustration. And I think a lot of times people are questioning, like, why do I feel this way? I don't understand why I feel this way, right? Like, why is life so hard? Or
Yeah, I went on for such a long time thinking like, I don't know, I would get out of a relationship and I was being like, "Wow, like, am I not
mm-hmm.
lovable? Like, what why am I not like, why is it not working? Like, why am I not happy?"
Yeah.
Like, not really realizing that it wasn't this other person not loving me or not being capable of loving me, but it was the fact that, like, I didn't love myself and I wasn't capable of accepting love from anyone else. And until I really did the work on myself and started like digging deep into like what makes me
Yeah.
me, like what do I love? Like what do I don't know, like I wanted to look in the mirror and like look back on myself being like, I love that girl. She's fucking awesome.
Part of loving yourself is trusting yourself and listening to yourself. And if that real you, the authentic you, that voice inside of you is saying, "Hey, I want you to go in this direction. I want you to go into on this adventure. I want you to go pursue music. I want you to go to do this thing." I'm telling you, right? I'm whispering in your ear every night and you're not listening to me, then you don't love me. You're listening
Yeah.
to these external voices of, "Oh, let me go make the money. Let me go get the partner. Let me go
Yeah.
get this thing
Well, and
out."
it's like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you ignore the universe, it will fucking shake things
Oh
up
yeah.
until you cannot ignore it
Oh
anymore.
yeah.
And that was literally my life over and over and over again. Like it was like every single time that I was kind of like going down a path and I would ignore what my body, what the universe is telling me to do, it would shake things up until I couldn't ignore it anymore. And this was kind of like all of these different situations of the universe doing that and shaking things up for me and me living in a state of like fight or flight for just years and years and years. And then finally getting to this point where I was like, all right, I'm going to learn to love myself. I'm going to learn more about myself. I'm going to get to know myself for the first time at 28 years old. And when I started doing that, like, I can't even tell you how different things felt, like, how synchronistic my life started feeling. Like, it felt like I would speak something and it would happen.
Mhm.
Like, I would speak things into existence because I was finally listening to myself, listening to my body, listening to the universe, and moving in the direction with the universe instead of fighting
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about speaking things into
it.
existence real quick because
Okay.
I've already had so many fun moments with you where you're just like, "Oh, dude, like I just created this thing or I just declared that I wanted this thing and then you got it like a week later, you know?" I've seen you do that multiple
Yeah.
times and then today was so funny because I saw you post a TikTok and it was you playing at I think Beyond Wonderland and then the audio that
Yeah.
was on top of it was Abraham Hicks, which if y'all don't know what Abraham Hicks is, go look it up. It's like this woman that channels this I don't know entity, but it's all their stuff is about manifestation. It's all about speaking what you want into existence, being in alignment spiritually and energetically. I was laughing so hard. I love that you posted that, but I've also seen you do it. Like I've witnessed it firsthand where you're like, "Nick, you'll never know what I just like manifested and created." But tell me a little bit about for those that maybe aren't super familiar with this little we are like so far down the woo woo rabbit hole right now. I
I
I
know.
love it, but I'm gonna get 5 more minutes. I'm gonna pull us out of it, but before we go,
Okay.
before we start to exit, tell us about manifestation and how you actually use that, and what's your approach to that? Because I see you doing it.
Yeah. Um, there are definitely a lot of different instances I would say that I felt like I manifested. But the first thing that I would say is that May 5th, 2022, when I decided I'm becoming an artist, it was no longer like, oh, maybe I'm going to do this. I woke up every day and was like, I'm a fucking
Mm,
artist. I embodied that energy. And I woke up every day feeling like an artist before I even was an artist, before I had an artist name, before any of that. And that was, I feel like, the start of like my
yeah.
manifesting. Last year, before I even decided to pursue music, I went to Beyond to see my best friend play. And you guys know my friend Chandler, she was with me. And that was actually the first time that we had ever met in person and hung out in person. And we went to Beyond together and we're watching Elliot up there playing. I'm just going to get real right now. Elliot, my ex boyfriend, who is now my best friend, he's up there on stage playing and she's like, like, I know how much you loved him, and I know that you would have always fucking supported him, but if you would have stayed together, you would have always supported his career, and you would have always helped him chase his career. But, like, now that it's just you, like, you're that main character. Like, you should be up on that stage. Like, don't for a moment forget the artist that you are too. And I think because I had not really known myself too much, like I did, I love music so much that like I would have done anything to help him propel his career. But in that moment, like I saw him up on that stage and I imagined myself, like I closed my eyes and I imagined myself up on that stage. And 1 year later, I was playing up on that stage. And it honestly was such a crazy experience because fast forward to this year playing Beyond, like, I was playing an opening set at Caterpillar Garden, and I honestly didn't think that I would have, like, a lot of people there. I was just, like, grateful for the opportunity, and I was like, "This is gonna be so sick. This is my first festival." Like, I didn't even know, like, what the turnout would be, and me and Chandler, we ended up writing a song together to premiere at Beyond because we were just like, "This is such a cool full circle moment." Like, a year ago, you told me that I should be that one up on stage, and then, like, a year later, I'm playing this festival, and when I tell you something special happened that day, about halfway into my set, like, it just started filling and
Yep.
filling and filling, and, like, by the end of my set, the entire hangar was full, and they said that, like, the day before, like, the hangar didn't fill up until, like, hours and hours later, like, something magnetic just happened during that set, and everyone came, and then we went up to, like, preview or debut or whatever that song, and we're both up there on top of the DJ booth dancing, and, like, I've never felt anything like it. Every single moment of, like, hard work and manifestation and, like, embodying being that artist just all came to fruition,
Yeah.
like, right in that moment. And there have been plenty of times where I've done, like, this manifesting, but, like, for me, the big one was I kept thinking, like, I wanna play EDC Las Vegas. And I knew that it was gonna be a really hard thing. You know, it's not like you just easily get to play EDC, but I would sit there and I would imagine me opening that email and opening that, and, like, I would get to the point where I literally would, like, sit there and I would imagine, like, what would it feel
Yeah.
like in my body? What would it feel like to get that letter? Over and over again. I would manifest it and little things would happen. Like one day, remember, I think I texted you about it. I was manifesting like getting a EDC booking. Someone DM'd me and was like, "Hey, like we have a booking for you like the week of EDC." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that'd be cool. Like keep me updated about it." And like in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, like that's not exactly what I wanted, but like that would be cool too." And so it was kind of like these little things. And then the Monday after Beyond, there was definitely a little bit of like a buzz going on about my set and the fact that I was able to fill up the hangar. And Monday morning, I got that email. And honestly, I thought it at first, I thought it was like an ad. I thought it was an ad. I was
Getting
like,
spammed right now.
I'm like, I'm getting spammed by EDC mail right now. Like, there's no way that says Fredy Lane at EDC Las Vegas, right? I opened that, and when I tell you I opened that email, and I don't think I've ever cried so hard in my entire life. All the emotions that during those manifestations that I was feeling, I felt in that moment and was like, what the actual fuck just happened? Like, I'm playing EDC Las Vegas. It's not just like writing it down or saying, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like embodying that,
You gotta
like,
feel it.
I'm going to fucking play EDC.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna play EDC, knowing in your body, like, I'm gonna do this.
I love this so much. And there's a few just points I want to hit on. One, everybody needs to have a Chandler in their corner. You need to have friends that see your potential, that are going to speak the truth, that are going to also sometimes say the hard truth that you don't want to hear. Like you tell me you're so good at that. That's why I always call you my coach, because you always just give it to me straight. You're like, Nick, stop being fucking scared of TikTok and start posting. I'm like, damn it. And I'm like, oh, but that's actually what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, you came up with so many fucking excuses, and I'm like, "Dude, you'd crush. Just do
I
it.
got
Like, just do it."
20,000 views on my second post. I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, Caitlin.
Exactly.
But yes, you need
Right.
people in your corner that are going to support you, that are going to speak into your greatness.
With Chandler, like, she saw the artist in me before I could see it for myself, and sometimes you're not able to really see yourself for your potential, and you need another person to be able to be like, "Yo, go fucking post your
Yep.
TikToks," or, like, "Go follow your
Yep.
dream," like sometimes it takes that other person to like see it in you before you see it in
Yeah,
yourself.
and you also need people to celebrate with. Like when you called me when you got your EDC booking, it just lit me up. I was so excited. You were obviously excited, but it's like when we are living in the energy of excitement, we are living in the energy of celebration, we are living in the energy of joy. We are vibrational beings and we are attracting
Yeah.
more excitement and celebration and things to be joyful about into our lives. And so I love the intentional practice of manifestation. This is literally the first lesson of my coaching program that I teach people and put them on a training program. Like the same way that you're going to go to the gym and physically work out your muscles and get your physical body in shape, we also need to get our energetic spiritual body in shape, our mental body in shape. And what I do is I have people sit down for 5 minutes a day. First, we get super clear on the vision, super clear on the goals. What are the things that you want? But and not only write them down, but then sit down, put on some music, something that's going to inspire you and elicit some emotions, and see it happening. And not just see it in your mind, but feel it happening. What does it feel like to be there? What does it feel like to get that email? What does it feel like to be on stage looking out in front of thousands of people? Like feel that shit every day. Hardwire your body, hardwire your emotional body, your mental body to live in that space. Because here's the thing, we're already doing that anyway. We're doing it when we're thinking about the future and how we're going to fail and how things aren't going to work out and how the worst case scenario is going to happen. And we literally physically feel that. Our body feels it. Our body resonates with that. That's called anxiety. We have a whole world of people that are struggling with anxiety. And it's because we're thinking about future scenarios that haven't happened that we don't want to have happen. And vice versa, we're doing it in the past. We're thinking about all the ways that we fucked up. We're thinking about all the things that we don't have. We're thinking about all of the things in our past that we're unhappy with, which then makes us feel depressed. None of it is actually real, but our mind will take us there so powerfully that our body will feel it. And so if we can do it to the things that we don't want, we can also do it to the things that we do want. Lesson number one, the biggest shift I really, really emphasize and start having people make is like, yo, start thinking about what you do want and watch that shit happen. And you are just such a great example of somebody that has done that in an incredibly powerful way, looking at what you've been able to accomplish in a very short amount of time, less than a year from just starting the project. You just put out your first track, like what, in January, right? And you've already played you played the biggest music festival in the world. Now, of course, there is this woo-woo spiritual side that we're talking about, which is a big piece of it. And I highly encourage everybody to do that.
I would say before we move on from that, there's just a little nugget of like, if I could give an artist any advice, it would be this. I think there's a side where like you compare yourself to others and you compare yourself to other artists and you think, why am I not getting these bookings? Why am I not getting these opportunities? Like, oh, my music's great, or I've been producing for this long, or I've been doing this, this, and that. You're living in this mindset of
Yeah.
lack. And when you focus on what you're lacking and what you don't have, that's where your energy goes. I didn't have anything to lose or actually I had a lot to lose, but I was in this mindset of like, I have nothing to lose because at this point I'm not happy and music is going to make me happy. So there's no turning back here. But everything that I get moving forward, this is like a celebration. Like every single person that comments on my post and says, "You're my new favorite artist. I love your song. I can't wait to see your set. Your set made my weekend. You were the best set of the night." Those are like such wins to me, and every booking, everything, like I try to live in this like, wow, that I wasn't even expecting that, but I got that and that was amazing. And living in this abundant energy of like, I'm not looking at other people and thinking, "Oh, damn, I didn't get booked for that festival." I'm thinking there are so many more festivals coming and I'm gonna be on that next
Yeah.
one, you know? And if you live in that sweet spot of like just celebrating your wins and not thinking about what you didn't get and not thinking about like who you're not or the followers you don't have or like the opportunities you don't get and you just fucking celebrate everyone and celebrate yourself, it's such a different energy.
Comparison and jealousy are two of the biggest things that I see artists struggle with all the time. Like even with your friends, it could be one of your good friends and you're like, why are they winning and I'm not? It's something I see come up so much. And one of the best perspective shifts that I was ever taught and try to practice is when you see other people winning, if you feel bad about it, if you feel jealous and you get low or you get down on yourself, then you're basically telling the universe, like, well, I don't like this thing that's happening over here. I don't like success.
Yeah.
So shifting into celebrating not only your own successes, but also celebrating someone else's. Like, you see somebody winning, celebrate that shit, because then your vibrational frequency is in the energy of celebration and you're telling the universe, like, hey, I like what's happening over here. This is dope. Give me some of
Mhm.
that, right? Instead of having this like,
Yeah.
negative reaction to it. And again, we are in the woo woo rabbit hole right now, but yo, this shit is real. It's real. Like, practice this stuff, people. Get out there, celebrate everybody, everything, gratitude. Let's go. Abundance. It's there.
Yes.
All right, now, yes, now we're going to pull ourselves out of the woo woo rabbit hole because that is a piece of it. You also can't just sit there on your ass all day long and meditate and just like hope that a fucking Ferrari shows up in your driveway. You also mentioned how
You can?
you used to work 80 to 100 hours a week at your old job. So you also are a workhorse. You also know how to be super disciplined, super focused, and put in the time and the energy. That's the masculine energy side of things as well. So you also have a relentless work ethic. It's the combination of both of those things, the feminine woo-woo spiritual side and this masculine boots on the ground. We have to grind and make shit happen. So I'd love to start talking about that because you've also invested heavily. You got a team behind you. That was really where we got to reconnect on a deeper level. Is I work with the branding agency, the Cult Creatives, and you came on board as a client. You hired a team. You built an incredible brand. You've had support. So maybe share a little bit about what that process has been like for you, because you came in this with a very clear business mindset. Like, I'm not just here to tinker around on Ableton and make beats. I'm here to start a fucking business and take this thing to the highest level that I can. You had a very clear, what I would call headliner mindset coming into this. So tell me about that.
I think that I have spent so much time around other producers through Icon, after Icon, that have kind of all been like, oh, I've got to learn how to do it all myself. And these are guys that like they spend hundreds of hours in front of Ableton and they want to learn synthesis and they want to learn how to master their own stuff and mix their own stuff. And like they want to do it all themselves. They're trying to like learn video programs so they can make their own visuals and like anything that they can do to not have to spend money to bring anyone else in to help them. And I think if being a business owner has taught me anything, it is that you can't grow and you can't scale without trusting other people to come in and be part of your vision and part of your team. And I didn't want to be like that. Like I didn't want to be the person that had to learn to do it all myself because if I did, I'd be spending the next 20 years trying to learn how to tune my kick drums and how to like be the best engineer I could be so that things sounded perfect. And when I started this, I knew from the get-go, like, I have a background in marketing and graphic design, like, I've done it for years and years and years. I could have easily designed all my own things, but I knew I wanted to take this seriously. I knew I wanted to build a business, and so right off the bat, I reached out to you and was like, "Hey, like, I wanna get some pricing from Cole. I wanna have a conversation with them." I had a conversation with a couple other agencies as well, but it was pretty apparent to me right off the bat that Chris and I were a good fit for each other. After our first call, I just knew it in my gut. I was like, "I don't care what it costs. I know that this is the right move. I know that this is the right direction." And when I started with them, like, I had a specific, like, idea of where my artist project was gonna go, what it was gonna look like, what my name was gonna be, all of this stuff. And they're like, "Okay, like, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see." They weren't putting my name on anything. They were just putting, like, my muggle name, like, they were like, "Caitlin Brown," like, on everything, and so I was like, all right, we'll see." And through that process of working with Chris and diving into brand therapy, I don't know, it was like I was getting to know myself as an artist for the first time
Yeah.
and really trying to like dig deep and figure out like why am I creating? And I was able to figure out that like I'm creating for that little girl that was told the music industry was too hard. And I'm creating for that little girl that, like, wanted to have pink hair and wanted to, like, wear her fluffy outfits and wanted to, like, show up as her authentic self, but instead, like, wore all black because she thought that that's what she was supposed to do, you know? And so I got really clear on, like, who I was creating for, and then I kinda started diving into, like, why I wanted to create, and I think I realized I wanted to have a voice. I wanted to be able to share with people, like, the, like, roller coaster I think that I kinda went on with my depression and coming out on the other side where, like, I found my purpose and I found myself and I found happiness somewhere that I never even imagined I would. That all together kinda, like, started building Fredy Lane, like, that started building the foundation of what Fredy Lane is, like, it's about so much more than putting out some tech house bangers and,
Yeah.
like, some music you can shake your ass to, you know? Like, it really is a brand that was built to start sharing these kinds of conversations, to start talking about mental health, to start talking about suicide, to start talking about substance abuse, to start really sharing, like, my story, my healing, what I've gone through, and how I came out on the other side doing what I love and, like, being my most authentic self, and I think that is where, like, true happiness lies, is being your most authentic self regardless of who's around you, and, like, I lost so many people in the process of doing this. The people that were my best friends a couple years ago are not even in my life anymore. But when I started showing up as my most authentic self, I started attracting people that aligned with me and made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore.
Yeah.
And in depression, I think that that's a huge thing is you feel alone in what you're feeling. And I want to be like that person that shows everyone like you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone in this. We're all cut from the same cloth and we have these universal things that we all struggle with. And that's kind of what I wanted to share. And I knew I wasn't gonna share that just on my own. So I started, like I said, taking lessons, like learning how to produce. I lined up an engineer that could mix and master all my tracks. I started getting to sessions with other artists and started finding writers to work with. I brought on this whole branding agency to work on the brand side of things to get my visuals started. It was actually funny because before I even had, like, launched my project, I was like, "Let's start on my visuals." I know it sounds crazy, but, like, I'll drop the 10 grand to get a visual pack so that by the time I have my first show, like, I wanna be prepared. I want people to know that, like, I'm fucking
Yeah.
ready. Like,
We're ready.
everyone's ready
We're
for
ready for
Freddie.
Freddie, baby. Yeah, and it makes,
Exactly.
it's so rad because it makes such a freaking difference. It's like most people are coming at this from I'm just going to make music. And, I've been talking about this a lot on my social media from the artists that I've interviewed so far and the hundreds that I've worked with in the past. It's like comparing the amount of time and energy that goes into making the music versus building the business. It's like everyone's putting in 95% of their time to making the music, and that's great. You need great music, but if you're only putting 5% of the time and your focus and your energy into building your business, you are not going to have a business. And
Yeah.
I love the branding stuff. It's been so fun reconnecting with Chris and working with Colt and seeing the importance of having a brand, especially a brand that has substance. I really appreciate you sharing all of this because I wasn't involved in the actual branding process for your project. So I actually didn't really know about that story. But for people to see that being an artist, I think is so fun and it's different for everybody. Some brands are more like this is like a freaking robot brand and it's about being in outer space and it's like actually very disconnected from the
Mhm.
person. Whereas this is like such a cool one because it's you bringing your inner child alive. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of depth to it, right? It was a process. We do call that our process brand therapy. It's like let's get really down to the core of like what are you
Yeah,
actually
and not to
saying?
mention too yeah, not to mention that, like, so much of my brand is the party, like, I have, like, my little Freddy's, my little cartoon character of myself, she's my drunk alter
Yeah,
ego. Like, it's not all, like, about, like, the emotional and mental health shit. It's also, like, I wanna
it's
have
fun.
fun. Like,
Yeah,
I've always grown up as somebody that's been, like, the life of the party, and I'm on top of the bar, and I'm pouring shots in people's mouths, and, like, I wanna embrace that side too and, like, show that duality of, like, you can do
yeah,
both. You can be
yeah.
both.
And you're doing it really, really well. You know, I really
Thanks.
just, yeah, couldn't be more honored to be, part of the journey with you, just like as a friend, as a person, as a human. It's just been so rewarding to be able to celebrate all of this with you. Like, I'm so excited to have you on now so that we can revisit this in a year or
Yeah.
revisit this in 5 years when you're like, you know what I mean? Where you're just like at the mountaintop. I mean, that's like in a year, like with the mindset that you have, the way that you're approaching the business, the energy, the manifestation. It's like you got all of the things just lined up and it's already been working. And I just can't wait for more people to get introduced to your brand, for them to experience your sets, which are insane and so much fun, but also
Thank
to
you.
experience, the deeper level. I really hope that people get introduced to this podcast so they can also see like what's behind Fredy Lane, what you went through to get there, to get to the point of actually like really pulling the trigger and saying yes to your authentic self, yes to your dream, putting in
Yeah.
the work, like, just placing a huge bet on yourself, betting on yourself, going for it, investing in yourself. And to see like,
And there are a lot of people that were, like, cracking up laughing at me thinking, like, "You're fucking crazy for thinking you're gonna do this." Like, I sat down with so many managers and so many people that were like, "You're not gonna be playing festivals for a couple years. You might not even have shows in your first year."
yep,
Like, I got booked for my first festival before I even had my first
yeah,
release. And that's not to say that that happens all the time. Like, I spent many years building up my connections. I went to every fucking show. Like, when I started doing it, I was at every tech house show that you could imagine. I was talking to every single artist. I was talking to every person. Like, I was making sure I was rubbing shoulders with the right people for sure to be able to have the connections that I did and to be able to get in front of the right people. In October was when actually launched my project. And then I got booked in November for Beyond. I played EDC Las Vegas. I am now playing Nocturnal Wonderland, like, in my first year, and I can say that because we're announcing next week,
sweet.
so by the time this comes out.
Yeah, congratulations.
But, thank you. So it's like in my first year, I already am playing 3 festivals. I have played pretty much every Southern California club that I wanted to. Like, I literally made a list. I was like, "These are my goals." And before 2022 was even up, I already did everything that I wanted to for 2023, and I was like, "Alright, gotta do some new goals."
What I hear underneath that is just this relentless belief in yourself. When other people are telling you that you can't do it, society is telling you that being an artist is super hard. Even people that work in the industry are telling you, like, no, that's not how it works. And even your own voice oftentimes is like, no, you can't really do this, right? That little sabotage, what I call like
Mhm.
the inner gremlin is telling you that you can't do it. But that belief, when you believe in yourself so powerfully, nothing can stop you, right?
Yeah, and especially those little moments too where I was like, "Shit, this is working."
Yeah, yeah,
Like, people like it, like, people are
yep.
listening, like, I'm getting booked for things, all of
And
that.
and it's just the beginning. We are ready for Freddie.
Woo.
Let's get it.
I'm ready.
Everybody go check her out. Your new track Ass is out today. Go shake that ass, baby. We're here.
Oh, yeah, shake your ass, don't
Game
stop.
time. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on with me today. This is so fun and I just
Thank you for having
can't wait
me.
to see where you go from here.
Shake your ass, don't stop.